Alright, so here's our fish skins that have been scraped. We took the flesh out, and what we're going to do now is we're going to work some tallow or oil through the hide, or rather through the skin. So what I have here is I just kind of have a towel that I'll use for this, and what I want to do is get it kind of damp. I want to get it wet. So I'll just use some cold water, get the towel wet. Wringing it out here. Alright. Put some more water onto it a little bit, because you want it somewhat damp. You want a little bit of water to wring out. Okay, so then what you'll do is then next you'll take your fish skins here, and then you kind of lay them out on your towel like so. And then I'm going to take some tallow, which is rendered beef fat from suet, and I'm going to rub this in. Actually, I'm going to rub it in on both sides. So what I want to do is just kind of smear this all over the place. Smear this in. Just like so. And I want to get both sides actually. So I'm going to do that and flip it over. That was the flesh side. This is the scale side. A little bit more tallow. I'll work this in. Just going to smear it all around. Alright, so now after doing all of that, again, that's why we want a nice wet, kind of damp towel. And what we're going to do is we want to roll the towel up with the skin in, like so. Just like this. Like that. So I'm going to roll this up. And this is sort of the same method that you would use if you were tanning like rabbit or raccoon or small animal fox, and you wanted to leave the hair on. The flesh side, you'd put the brain matter on, or whatever your tanning solution would be. That could be oil or soap or egg yolk. And you want to wrap it up in a damp towel, and then that's when you want to twist and wring it out. Okay? What I'm going to do is shift the camera a bit. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and wring the skin out, which will help drive the oils through the skin. So I'm gonna get the excess water out, and then I can do is I can start to really kind of start to work this. You really wring it tightly. Alright, another way to do this is to kind of step on it and wring it, and you can see I can got a towel on the floor to sop up any excess moisture, and that way I can get a really good twist on it, because the key is to really drive the oils through the skin. And then at that point you can kind of step on it like so to really smash the oils through. Okay? So the idea is to work the oils in and then to use water to drive it through. And I'm going to pull it like so. Twist and pull. Like so. Alright, so we've taken our fish skin and wrung it out in a towel, damp towel, after putting rubbing tallow on it. And this is essentially, once we unwrap it, is what you'll get. Okay? Like this. And what we'll want to do now is to continue to stretch and pull this until it is completely dry. Alright, so it's a little bit time consuming, but you'll kind of want to work this until it's dry. Okay? So what I can do is I can kind of stretch this and work it, and then I have another skin that I'm going to do the same thing that we just did with it, and then I can alternate between the two, and then put some TV on, most likely Game of Thrones or something like that, and then just take my time and just work this and stretch it till it's dry. So very similar tanning process to pretty much anything else, but the key is to keep the fibers moving while it's drying. Keep the skin moving while it's drying. Okay, so this is what we have. The consistency is pretty different. The texture is pretty different. It's a little oily, so you have to rub your hands off, you know, if you're gonna take a break from stretching it and touch something else like some paper or something. But that'll stop over time. Again, avoid the holes, and then as this dries, you're just going to want to stretch it. Keep stretching it in all directions, like so. Okay, so here are semi dry pieces, and what I'm continuing on doing is, while it's drying, I'm working it and stretching it, and I'm trying to keep the fibers of the dermis of the skin here loose and pliable, okay, as it dries. So it's a little time, and it takes a bit of time to kind of work these hides or these skins here. And on the edges, you want to pick them like that. You want to kind of want to pluck them out like this, and then stretch them laterally, long ways. Stretch them laterally. Stretch. Stretch. So you'll just constantly do this and just keep working it as they dry. And you're also working off the scales that are on there, that may be left on there. Same thing with this one here. Just gonna work every bit of it. You're gonna pluck the edges. And again, this is something you can do while you're listening to a podcast or watching TV or something like that. So you can always be productive, even though you're maybe just doing something that's not as productive. Alright, as the hides are starting to dry, you want to start paying attention to the dry spots. And you can hear the dry spots. They'll start to get crinkly, and you really want to work those and start focusing on those areas. Again, stretching it out both longwise and then laterally. Okay. Another part to this that I'm going to introduce to the process is to break up the fibers in the skin with medium grit sandpaper. And this is the skin side up, or the scale side up. And I'm just going to kind of rub this both with and against the grain, just to kind of break up the fibers a bit, not too aggressively, but just to kind of lift up some of the fibers so that we can still work a lot of the oil through. Again, I don't know, and not there. That was the scale side, and we do the flesh side, or the meat side, right? And we still keep working it. So we'll just use a combination of the sandpaper and stretching and pulling and crinkling. Sometimes you could even ball it up and roll it in your hands, just to make sure you're keeping all the fibers working and loose and everything loose. Because if you don't do this, what'll happen is it'll dry translucent and it'll be like paper or parchment. Now for certain projects, whatever you have in mind, you certainly could do that. But if you want something a little bit more pliable and flexible, then you got to keep working it as it dries. And then go ahead and unfurl it. Alright, so I think this is coming along fairly okay. It's still not 100% dry, but the texture has changed a bit, and there's a little wet spot here I want to focus on. And really all I'm doing at this stage of the game is I'm really just kind of working it back and forth, really roughly up and down and back and forth, to keep the fibers of the dermis of this skin from gluing back together again, because that's all it will do, is it'll just glue back together again, and that's when you get the stiff, translucent texture, paper-like texture. You can even take this and roll it in your hand, similar to like a hand drill. Just to make sure that you're really covering all the bases. And that was lengthwise. Back up again. And then I can go and roll it this way and work it between my hands, like so. Just really kind of what you want to do is beat it up to make sure that the fibers are really broken down. There we go. See the wet spot's still in the middle there. I want to keep working that until it dries. But for the most part, it's I'm okay with it. Let's turn it out and take my sandpaper, kind of brush it, lay it back out again. Both sides. Stretch it out. That's really the key, is that it's drying, is just to really kind of beat it up so that it doesn't glue back together again. Alright, so here we have it for the most part. This is the texture that we kind of end up with. It's somewhat soft. I can continue working this and just really be vigorous in breaking up the fibers on this. This is what it sounds like. This is how pliable it is. It's really very tactile. It's something you have to kind of feel. It has a very, very, very faint, well, I wouldn't say very faint, but very, very faint. But it smells a little bit like fish, but it's not, you wouldn't notice it unless you put your nose right up to it. Over time, that'll dissipate. But it's not disagreeable. It just smells like fish, like salmon, a little bit. But for the most part, this is what we end up with. And this will keep. And you can, I don't know, for different crafts, you can sew these together, stitch these up, use them as covers for grips, handles, grips for, or covers for bows, the backing of bows, bags. My understanding is that the Inuit people can sew fish skins together and seal skins together in a way that they're waterproof. I'm not privy to that information or even how to do that. It'd be great to learn how to do that one day. But this is just something that I'd read about and picked up, and from what I could find online, it was kind of hard to figure out and piece together. And so this is a method that seems to work for me. I'm sure there's others and much more efficient methods. And this was just using ammonia as a curing agent or to tan the fish skin, and then we rubbed oil through it and kind of squeegeed it through it. Kind of tried to. The concept was to force the oils through the dermis or through the fish skin, and then as it dried, to keep the fibers of the fish skin from drying together. Just keep working it, and then we broke down the top layers with some medium grade sandpaper just to give it some softness and to help break up the top layer. So this is what we came up with. I'm okay with it for this demo. Go ahead and if you feel so inclined, you can experiment, and it'd be interesting to see what you come up with.